Socio-political commentator Vitalio Angula shared his talking points for the year 2019.
The highlight of 2019 was the elections. Leading up to the elections, it was very slow, and people were asking where is the excitement. But I think 1 month, 2 months before the elections, with the emergence of the independent candidate registering for the elections, I think the hype started around that. But it coincided as well with fake news. I think one of the highlights, you can consider it a highlight or a low point, is the amount of fake news which was out there. So speaking to people, we really found that we have a need for media literacy in the country, because we're inundated with a lot of messages. So we really needed to dissect what is true, what is false, where is the source of information coming. And we saw also a lot of people being harmed as a result of the fake news, but we saw at the same time civic participation in the electoral process or the elections which were scheduled to take place. So for the country, it was a very good thing. One of my highlights for this year was the elections of 2019. Another highlight of the year was the registration of the independent candidate Angelina in Oshakati East. I think that represented a transformation in Namibian politics. We had this lady, she's a youth, and she decided she's going to run as an independent candidate in her constituency. And she was going up against an institution. So imagine an individual going against an institution. I think that was huge, and she put up actually a good fight. So we are seeing civil engagement, but not civil disobedience, but civil engagement within a democratic state. And we are actually seeing the individual's needs taking precedence over the needs of powerful institutions like the ruling party, who have abused their power over the years. So we are having individuals actually willing to put themselves on the chopping block and stand up to the bullying and the aggression. That is one of my highlights also. Another highlight, low point highlight, is the GBV cases. GBV cases, they were at the forefront, but one of the disappointing things is that they hit the newspapers, they hit the radio, and then within a week we forget who the victims were. We also forget who the perpetrators were, and we forget that our country actually has a problem with gender-based violence. So what we see is that gender-based violence, incidents of gender-based violence become overrun by other events. Like we are just coming through election season. People are like, GBV doesn't even exist anymore. Then we had the case of Gebhardt shooting the wife. And then all of a sudden it was on the front page. Then the next day it was not even news anymore. Then we heard that he actually got bail, and nobody was even aware that the case was there. So how do we address GBV in a manner where we don't treat it as an event that comes and goes? So that is one of the highlights and the low points. The MTC Knockout Cup. We had the MTC Knockout Cup recently, where we had celebrities going in the boxing ring, and it was very entertainment. But the aftermath of that, people started asking questions. Is Namibia a country that celebrates violence? Is boxing a sport, or is it violence? Where do we cross the line with the boxing matches, and how people actually responded to them? It brought a lot of questions, but I think MTC really did a good thing, bringing GBV to our front screens. But did they reach the objective? Is it going to reduce cases of GBV? We don't know. Are people going to report GBV cases? We don't know. Do we still have a problem with GBV cases? Yes, we do, but GBV cases only come at the forefront when something happens, and then they are out of the limelight. So that is one of the highlights and low points of 2019.